Well, for more on this, I'm now joined by Michel Chossudovsky. He's Director of the Centre for Research on Globalization in Canada. Thanks for joining us on RT. Well, we've heard this joke between Robert Gates and General Petraeus. What do you make of it coming from such high-ranked officials at this time?
Well, I think we are in a very dangerous crossroads because essentially the United States and NATO are supporting an armed insurrection in eastern Libya with a view to eventually justifying a humanitarian intervention. Now, there's evidence that, in fact, Allied forces are already on the ground. We've seen reports of the British SAS, but we've seen other reports that say that, in fact, the number of special forces and intelligence agents on the ground is in the several hundred. And the question one has to ask, with US and NATO military advisors and special forces theoretically helping the rebels, what does this imply in terms of international law? This is an interference in the affairs of a sovereign country, whatever one's views are with regard to Gaddafi. This is not a protest movement, as in Egypt and Tunisia. This is an armed insurrection, and public opinion has been led to believe somehow that conditions in Egypt and Tunisia have, so to speak, spread to Libya, and that this is a spontaneous insurrection. It's not. It's been planned well in advance. Most probably, those special forces were already on the ground prior to the onslaught of the insurrection. And when the Central Command Central Command General actually makes the statement that if there is the establishment of a no-fly zone, and he was very explicit on that, this would essentially mean also a bombing campaign, because you'd have to take out air defense. And what is implied and what is on the drawing board, I'm not suggesting it will be carried out, but it's on the drawing board, is an all-out blitzkrieg directed against a sovereign country in violation of international law.
Sure. Also, what is interesting, what do you make of the fact that the rebels themselves, the opposition, are saying they don't want military intervention on the ground? They have said actually they do want foreign help, but not military intervention on the ground. Why are they taking that position? Why don't they need help when, after all, they're experiencing a massive loss of life?
I think the majority of the population, including the opponents of Gaddafi, do not want foreign intervention, because then it's an Iraqi scenario. Ironically, what happened is that when Britain sent a so-called diplomatic mission, which in fact was made up of an MI6 secret agent escorted by SAS forces, they were arrested not by Gaddafi's forces but by opposition forces, and the opposition said, no, you shouldn't be here. This is interference in the country's the affairs of a sovereign country. So that I think that what is at stake here is something far more fundamental, which nobody is really mentioning, at least in the media. This is part of the battle for oil. Libya has 3.5% of global oil reserves, twice those of the United States. It's one of the major oil producers. It supplies large amounts of oil to the European Union. Its National Oil Corporation is among the 25 largest oil companies in the world. And what is involved here is the battle for oil.
I understand that, but what happens when that battle, in effect, is over? Whatever happens to Gaddafi, what happens afterwards? Will we see further turmoil for those trying to control the oil fields there in Libya, or indeed an opposition trying to form some sort of government but competing against itself? I mean, what will happen after all of this?
Well, I think we can't really make any statements to that effect at this time. what I think is on the drawing board of the Pentagon is essentially a fourth war theater in the broader Middle East, North African, Central Asian region. The other three being Palestine, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And the geopolitical implications are far-reaching. It's essentially what Washington is aiming at is to establish a sphere of influence in North Africa, establish control over these oil reserves, which constitute billions and billions of dollars of proceeds for the oil companies. And on top of that, and if we have to make certain predictions, we can make certain predictions. The impacts of this crisis are devastating, not only on the Libyan people, but on the entire world population. Why? Because oil prices are going fly high. Billions of dollars are being made on the speculative bets in the commodity exchanges, and this has been going on for several months. The impact on people's lives is devastating, because if you have an increase in the price of crude oil, this will trigger bankruptcies in the real economy. It will compress the purchasing power of people throughout the world. We're seeing it actually in many Western countries. In the United States, the price at the pump has gone up. In California, it's of the order of $4 a gallon. So that we must understand that this is a project of conquest. It is not a humanitarian undertaking. It is applying strategies that US and NATO have applied in Iraq and Afghanistan. Iraq and Yugoslavia, and public opinion has been misinformed. Dramatically misinformed on what is actually going on in this country.
Michel Chossudovsky, very interesting to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Director of the Centre for Research on Globalization from Canada, joining us there live in Montreal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be on the program.
Thank you.